They were never just a football club. They were banned from singing, from speaking, from wearing their own colors, from silent battles under Franco's regime, to the glory of Messi, Xavi, Iniesta. FC Barcelona didn't just play football, they fought for identity, for freedom, for an entire people. Think you know Barca? This story will change everything you thought you knew. Part 1. A tiny newspaper ad that changed the world. The story didn't begin with a roar. It began with ink. One man, a foreigner in a foreign land, placed a tiny ad in a local newspaper. 11 men answered the call. None of them knew they had just created something that would shake the entire world. A football revolution called Football Club Barcelona. Barcelona, 1899. A city alive with factories, ships, trade, and modernist spirit. But beneath the cobbled streets and industrial dreams, the people of Catalonia longed for something else. A symbol of identity, a space they could truly call ours. That symbol would come from a Swiss dreamer. On October 22, 1899, in Eing, the sports newspaper Los Deportes, a small classified appeared. Sport enthusiasts. If you're interested in forming a football club, please attend a meeting at Gimnasio Sol, Montjuic del Carme. The man who wrote those words was Joan Gamper, a 21-year-old Swiss national. He wasn't a stranger to football. He had founded clubs in his homeland, played matches, organized tournaments. But in Barcelona, he was searching for more than football. He was looking for community, for something eternal. On November 29, 1899, 11 men gathered in that gym. They weren't just Spaniards. There were Englishmen, Swiss, Germans, all united by a shared dream and a ball. From that gathering, the name Football Club Barcelona was born. From the very beginning, the club was a symbol of diversity, inclusion, and daring. Walter Wilde, an Englishman, was named the first president. And Joan Gamper? He became the soul. Then came a curious choice. Instead of naming the team Club de Football, like most Spanish teams, they chose Football Club Barcelona in English order. A small detail, but a quiet act of rebellion. A refusal to conform. A promise to be different. Just weeks later, Barca played its first match against a team of English expatriates in the city. They lost 0-1, but to Gamper and the founders, the score didn't matter. What mattered was that the name now lived. Football Club Barcelona had taken its first breath, and from there, the club grew, not by trophies, but by spirit. The people of Barcelona saw themselves in the red and blue stripes, a club not founded by kings, not supported by governments, but built by the people. A name that didn't belong to one man, but to everyone. Part 2. The stateless DREMers. They had no shared nationality, no home ground, no money. But they had one thing no one could buy, an ideal. Football Club Barcelona was born as a strange mosaic in the heart of a transforming city. It wasn't a club backed by royalty. It wasn't blessed by the state. It was a band of strangers from many nations, united by one round ball. In the early days, Barca had no stadium. They played on vacant lots, public parks, even school fields. Their shirts were handmade, their boots were borrowed. Spectators? Maybe a few dozen, mostly friends and family. But they played with heart. Barcelona's first jersey has an amusing origin story. Some say Joan Gamper chose red and navy blue because those were the colors of FC Basel, his old Swiss club. Others claim it came from the colored pencils of a teammate's child. Regardless, those red and blue stripes would become eternal. Back then, Barca wasn't just a football club. It was a social organization, a meeting point for intellectuals, students, and traders. They didn't play to win. They played to survive. To prove that a tiny team could still carry a giant spirit. In 1902, Barcelona won their first ever trophy, the Copa Macaya, a Catalan regional championship. It wasn't a national title, but to them, it meant everything. It was proof. We can win, even if the world doubts us. In just a few years, membership exploded. The club began collecting small dues from every member. Everyone gave a little to build something greater. No owners, no shareholders. Each member was a piece of the club. That structure, democratic, member-run, became part of Barcelona's DNA forever. Joan Gamper wasn't just the founder, he was the soul. He cleaned the pitch, arranged the chairs, wrote invitations, recorded match results. At another club, he might have been a wealthy president watching from above, but in Barca, he was the man serving the cause. Part 3. When the name was nearly Reyes eating 1925, a simple friendly match triggered national outrage. From that moment, the name Barcelona was no longer just a football team. It became a political threat. The match was between Barcelona and an English side. As part of the pre-match ceremony, the Spanish national anthem was played, standard protocol. But something unexpected happened. The entire crowd at Les Courts whistled in protest to the military government. This wasn't just rude. It was a national insult. The punishment was swift and brutal. FC Barcelona was banned for 6 months. President Joan Gamper was forced to resign. The stadium was closed. And for the first time, the name Barcelona stood on the edge of erasure. Joan Gamper, the founder, the soul, the heartbeat of the club, fell into despair. He was placed under government surveillance, blacklisted in the business world, isolated in the very city he had helped shape. In 1930, he ended his life with a single bullet, in the small apartment once filled with memorabilia of the club he created. Barcelona lost Gamper, but what the government didn't anticipate was this. They had just created a martyr. The people of Catalonia didn't back down. They began calling the club Barca to avoid censorship. They wore red and blue scarves to silently show loyalty. Matches were no longer just sport, they became silent. Uprisings. With every kick, they resisted. With every goal, they shouted without words, "We are still here. You cannot erase this name." Part 4. War and the colors that were Bianindi in 1936. Spain plunged into one of the darkest chapters in its history, a civil war that lasted 3 years and claimed over 500,000 lives. Catalonia, a land of its own language, culture, and strong spirit of independence, became a primary target of repression. When General Francisco Franco emerged victorious and took power in 1939, every symbol of Catalonia was outlawed: the language, the flag, the history, and even football colors. FUTBO, El Club Barcelona, a club that embodied Catalonia's freedom, was immediately seen as a cultural enemy by the new regime. The name Football Club was deemed inappropriate. The authorities forced the club to rename itself Club de Futbol Barcelona in strict Castilian grammar, erasing foreign and regional identity. But that was just the beginning. The club crest, which featured 4 red stripes representing the Catalan flag, was stripped of its colors. The red lines, once a symbol of pride, became marks of danger. Both the name and the colors were placed under control. The red and blue jersey remained, but it was watched closely. Commentators were forbidden from saying Barca on radio or TV. Newspapers were instructed to refer to the team only as the Northeastern Club. Even chanting in Catalan could get you arrested. Under Franco, the stadium became more than just a sports arena. It was a fortress of freedom. Inside those stands, Catalans could shout, cry, and dream, things they weren't allowed to do in public life. Silently, fans hid their red and blue scarves beneath their coats. They raised them only when Barca scored, a small but powerful act of resistance, a silent promise: we are still us. You may ban us, but this name, these colors will survive. Part 5. El Clásico. When football was nitrogen monoxide, longer just a GM in a normal world, football is sport. But under Franco's regime, between Barcelona and Real Madrid, Football was no longer just a game. It was war. Real Madrid, the club tied to central power, to royalty, to the capital, was given every advantage. They had grand stadiums, overflowing budgets, political protection. And they had one silent mission: crush every Catalan symbol. And no symbol was bigger than Barcelona. When the two teams met, it wasn't a match. It was a collision of worlds. Madrid, the face of the system. Barcelona, the voice of the repressed. Thus was born El Clásico, not just a rivalry of football, but a rivalry of ideology. In 1943, one of the most controversial matches in Spanish history took place. In the Copa del Generalissimo semifinal, the first leg saw Barcelona beat Madrid 3-0. But in the return leg, in Madrid, they lost 1-11. Witnesses claimed. Before the second leg, Barcelona players were summoned by government officials. They were reminded that football should serve national unity. Some say it was a threat. From that day forward, El Clásico was no longer about sport. It became a battlefield. Every foul carried political weight. Every goal a statement. Every celebration a risk. Barcelona no longer played for trophies. They played to exist in a system trying to erase them. And even when they lost, even when they were silenced, they had something Madrid never did: the trust of the people. Part 6. The Resurrection begins in the 1950s. Spanish football was ruled by Real Madrid. They won the European Cup year after year. Meanwhile, Barcelona stood silent, like a sleeping giant, its voice suppressed by politics, censorship, and fear. But every great resurrection begins with a first spark. And that spark came in 1957, when Barcelona inaugurated Camp Nou with a capacity of over 90,000, the largest stadium in Europe at the time. Camp Nou wasn't just a football pitch. It was a cathedral of hope, a place where Catalans could breathe, chant in their own language, and proudly wear the colors once forbidden. From that moment on, Barcelona was no longer a victim. They began to rewrite their own destiny. They brought in world-class players like Evaristo, Chibor, and Cochise, many of whom had fled communist regimes in Eastern Europe. In a time of dictatorship, Barcelona became a refuge for stateless brilliance. An oppressed club, opening its arms to the exiled. In 1959 and 1960, they won back-to-back Liga titles. They still trailed Madrid on the European stage, but Barca began igniting something different. Catalan belief. Camp Nou became a symbol. The matches were silent parades of a nation without a flag. Under the stadium lights, people could do what they could not do in the streets: dream. Part 7. Cruyff, the man who taught Barca how to live Barcelona, had long been a symbol of resistance. But by the late 1980s, the club still lacked one thing: a winning identity. They had trophies, they had legends, but no one had dared to say, "This is how we play. This is how we live." Until a Dutchman walked into Camp Nou. Johan Cruyff. Cruyff wasn't just a legendary player, he was a football philosopher. The father of total football, at Ajax and the Netherlands national team. When he first joined Barca in 1973, he became an instant hero. In his debut season, he helped win La Liga after a 14-year drought. But that was just the prologue. The true revolution came when Cruyff returned in 1988, this time as manager. At the time, Barcelona was in chaos, tactically and spiritually. But Cruyff didn't come just to win matches. He came to build a philosophy. He declared, "If you see a player pass the ball backward, he doesn't belong here. Here, we attack. Here, football must be beautiful." Cruyff introduced radical rules. Keep possession, move off the ball, build from the back, play in harmony. He created football not just to win, but to tell a story. And he changed everything. He established La Magia, a youth academy grounded in the same ideology. It didn't just teach skills, It taught players how to think, how to read space, how to perform like artists. Cruyff said, "Barca isn't where you play football. Barca is where you learn to become yourself." In 1992, he led Barcelona to their first ever European Cup, a title they had chased for nearly a century. Now, Barcelona was no longer just a club that had survived pain. They became a religion, built on philosophy, purpose, and pride. Part 8. La Masia, the cradle of GODS. Some clubs buy superstars. Some hire the best managers. Barcelona chose to nurture its own soul. Just outside Camp Nou stood an old farmhouse converted into a football academy. Its name, La Masia, reimagined. By Johan Cruyff, La Masia wasn't just a training center. It was a school of football thought. A place where kids as young as 10 were taught to play not just with their feet, but with their hearts and minds. Every student learned to respect the ball, respect their teammates, and above all, respect the identity they weren't taught to shine. They were taught to sink. They were taught that a simple pass at the right time could be greater than a goal. And from that rooftop, year by year, Barcelona quietly grew the greatest generation in modern football history. A shy, tiny boy from Rosario, Argentina, arrived at age 13 with magic in his feet. He lived in the dorms, ate simple meals, trained endlessly. His name was Lionel Messi. He played with a calm genius named Xavi and a quiet artist with dancer's feet named Iniesta. They didn't just grow up together. They were programmed to understand each other without words. When Pep Guardiola, Cruyff's beloved student, became head coach in 2008, he didn't chase superstars. He called up Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi from La Masia and said, "We don't need to change the world. We just need to play like we did at La Masia, and the world will change." In 2009, Barca's first team won a historic treble. In 2010, the Ballon d'Or finalists were all La Masia graduates. Messi, Xavi, and Iniesta, one academy, three gods. One philosophy, and the world bowed. Part 9. Messi, the man who carried a city on his shoulders. When Lionel Messi first stepped into La Masia at age 13, he was a shy, undersized boy, quietly battling a growth hormone deficiency. No one could have guessed he would become the greatest symbol in football history. Messi didn't play football loudly. He didn't shout. He didn't chase scandals. He didn't perform. He simply touched the ball. And the world stood still. In 2004, Messi debuted for Barca's first team at just 17 years old. Minutes after entering the pitch, he made moves that defied logic, and from that moment, he never left. For nearly 2 decades, Messi didn't just score goals. He redefined football itself, from magical solo runs past entire defenses to passes only a genius could imagine. From dreamy free kicks to last-minute goals that exploded Camp Nou with joy. Messi didn't play to win. He played like he was painting with his feet. And above all, Messi played for Barcelona, while other superstars chased fame and fortune elsewhere. Messi chose to stay, through criticism, through trophyless seasons. Every goal he scored, every time he raised his hands to the sky, was a message to the city that raised him. "I am here for you, because of you." Messi once said, "Barcelona gave me everything. I will never leave. This is home." But modern football can be cruel. In 2021, amid financial crisis, Barcelona was forced to say goodbye to its greatest son. Messi cried. Camp Nou cried. No one was angry, because they all knew an era had ended. Part 10. More than a club at Camp Nou. There's a phrase carved in gold, shining with pride and history. Messi un club. More than a club. To the world. It's a slogan. To the people of Barcelona. It is a vow. FC Barcelona has never been just a football team. They are the voice of those once silenced. The flag of those once forbidden to raise one. the home where a 13-year-old boy from South America found a family. The field where every kick, every pass carries a history of resistance. From days when their name was banned, their colors outlawed, their songs silenced, to becoming the most beloved team on earth. Barcelona's journey was not built on trophies, but on an unyielding spirit. They've had trophyless seasons. They've lost to Real Madrid. They've bid farewell to legends like Ronaldinho, Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi. But they've never lost the most important thing: identity. Barcelona can lose games, but they have never lost in reminding the world, we are Barcelona, we are freedom, we are belief. And no matter how many generations pass, no matter how the game changes, whenever a child wears the red and blue shirt for the first time, steps onto the pitch with eyes full of dreams, they'll understand, I am wearing a story, a dream, a nation. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next episode.